I am Amanda Johnson. I work with For Good Cause, and today Javier is joining me from Lacrosse the Nations.
There you go.
So, Javier, can you please briefly introduce yourself, your organization, and its mission?
Sure. My name is Javier Silva. I'm the executive director. I've been with the organization since 2012. I've been the executive director since 2016. So before taking on this role, I was really focused on developing our programming and working with our kids on the ground in Nicaragua. Spent 4 years kind of building that site out and slowly growing within the organization myself, and was asked to take over as the executive director, which meant moving back to the States, and which I gladly took. Well, mostly gladly because I didn't want to leave Nicaragua, but gladly because I wanted to take on the new challenge. And ever since then, I've just been focusing on expanding our model and growing to different countries, growing our donor base, and just getting more people involved with the work that we do, which is all about using the sport of lacrosse to promote education, create opportunities for young people in Latin America and here in the US.
That's awesome. So, what do you love most about working with Lacrosse the Nations?
It is combining some of my biggest passions, which is sports in general. I've always been a believer that you can teach anything through sports. Whatever you might be wanting to teach, you can always learn it through sports. Lacrosse being a sport that I grew up playing, maybe not grew up playing, but I started playing in high school. I've played most of my life now. And it's just such a unique community of people. And I love the people that I've met, the life experiences I've had through the sport, and then traveling. I've gotten to travel outside of LTN all over the world through lacrosse. I've been to Sweden. I've been all over like Europe playing lacrosse, playing and coaching lacrosse. I've coached in Israel. Like I've been all over, and travel is just a huge part of my life. And one of the ways that we achieve our mission is to get high school and college athletes from the States down to Colombia and Nicaragua and everywhere else. And so it's just a combination of all of my passions.
Yeah, that's so cool. It sounds like the perfect job for somebody who
Absolutely.
loves those things. Yeah, that's awesome. And so, what kind of impact does Lacrosse the Nations aim to make, not only in the U.S. but in the other countries where you're like serving those communities?
Yeah. So the majority of the work that we do is abroad. So we run after-school lacrosse programs for kids in Latin America, specifically in Nicaragua and Colombia. So our coaches are working with those kids probably 3 to 4 times a week, doing after-school lacrosse. We tie in study hall hours. We provide nutritional support for the community centers that we work with. And our goal is really to use the sport as a tool or an anchor to get the kids to finish school, to do well in school, to fall in love with education, and to dream of a better future. And by getting them to come to after school lacrosse, we're keeping them out of trouble, having them focus on their academics, and having the support system that they need to succeed in life. Because we believe that education is just, it's a massive tool. And if the more educated you are, the more opportunities you can get, whatever that education looks like, right? It doesn't have to be formal. It just needs to be someone pushing you to learn and grow as an individual. And then stateside, like I said, we bring high school students and college students down on service trips, and essentially it's the same thing, right? Giving high school kids and college kids the opportunity to learn about a new culture, a new world, just to see what's outside of what they know, and using lacrosse as the tool to get them excited to do that. Like I said before, I think travel is one of my biggest passions, and you just learn and grow so much as an individual when you do that and are exposed to new cultures and different people. And the more you travel, I think the more you realize that people are just the same, and just the settings are slightly different. But like overall, everyone is the same. You have the same desires, you have the same needs, you have the same, aspirations of a better life. And the more we can travel, the better that we gain empathy for others. And I think it's just a cool way to get high school kids and college kids that might have never said, oh, I want to go to Nicaragua or I want to go travel, period. Because a lot of the kids that we work with have never been outside the US, maybe not even outside of their home state, which is baffling to me. Which is baffling in a good way. So we get them excited to do it. And then once they do, our goal is that they learn something, they gain appreciation for it, and then hopefully get the travel bug and just want to keep doing it and keep experiencing different things.
Yeah, I love that. So a lot of our discussion today will be about your peer-to-peer approach to fundraising. And so let's kind of get started there with some questions. So how does peer-to-peer fundraising fit into the larger mission of education and community development for Lacrosse the Nations?
It's a great funding mechanism for us. But not only that, it's just a great way for us to engage the lacrosse community. Because of our programming, the majority of our programming being international, it's really hard to get every player and every coach and every lacrosse supporter, or every supporter, they don't have to be lacrosse supporters, but supporters of us, to see the work that we're doing every day. And so it's a great way to connect our programs in Colombia and Nicaragua with the people here in the States. And it's a great way for us to get a ton of marketing and exposure into communities that may or may not have heard about us, or had maybe heard about us a little bit, but don't know a lot. And so it allows us to use the connections that other people have to reach out to more people and have them be essentially megaphones for our mission and help us reach more and more people every year.
Yeah, that's awesome. How have you seen those efforts, like the collective community, like peer-to-peer way of fundraising, influence maybe cultures of values of the lacrosse community?
It's really cool because the lacrosse community in general is not very big, but it is kind of segmented, right? Like you don't really, like the people in Maryland, like you just play with people in Maryland for the most part. Same like upstate New York, Connecticut, and now there's growing patches of lacrosse elsewhere in the country. But anywhere you go, if you meet a lacrosse player, there's instant connection because of the history of the sport, and how it's so rooted in Native American culture and spirituality. And for them, the sport was not just a sport; it was a means of healing and resolving conflict. There's so much really rich history into the significance of why the Native Americans played lacrosse that kind of trickles into the culture of it today. So when people connect, oh, you play lacrosse, oh, so do I, like instant connection. And so when teams and players and coaches use one of their games in support of our mission, it kind of builds on that and adds deeper meaning to the game that they're playing, which kind of ties back to the roots of the sport, which is really, really cool. And when one team does it in the league and then they're like, oh, you're doing this, like we want to do that as well, that seems really cool. It's a great addition to the culture of whatever program we're working with. So coaches really love it because it's not just about what you're doing on the field, but it's a great moment for coaches to teach about service and giving back and how much power young people have to create impact, not only at home, but like thousands of miles away.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. So can you walk me through how your peer-to-peer fundraising model works today? Like how long has Lacrosse the Nations been operating on that model primarily for fundraising, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing it even before we got For a Good Cause, but once we got For a Good Cause, it totally shifted how it was running and the success that we had. Before we were doing like pledges for every ground ball, and you'd have to track down donors and like, hey, this team got 50 ground balls. You said you were gonna give $1 per ground ball. Like we need $50. Like the donation's $50. Here's the link, and then just keep pounding and pounding. Mm-hmm. Which was very tedious, very difficult, very hard to manage.
Yeah.
And so what we do primarily is it's two ways really. One is during the spring season. And so lacrosse runs the lacrosse season in the US runs from like February through May, primarily in high school and college. And so we do a lot of outreach to players and coaches and teams. And then a lot of times people reach out to us like, hey, we saw that you're doing this, like we'd love to be involved. And what they do is they dedicate a game during their season to support Lacrosse the Nations. Some teams pick any random game, others pick like a really big rivalry game, and they get their rival to also do it, which is a great way to like really build up
that's
an
cool.
aspect of it, which is really, really fun. And we have some teams that do it annually. And so, for example, there's 2 Division III colleges in Virginia, Christopher Newport and Washington and Lee, who both the men and the women play each other at the beginning of every season, kind of like a preseason opener. And they turned it into the LTN Cup. They have a trophy that the winners get. Like it's built this big rivalry between the 2 schools, which is great. But then sometimes there's like too much rivalry, which is but it's really fun. And so what they'll do is the week leading up to their game, we start sending like emails about our mission and how the money raised will impact what we do and how it supports our scholarship programs and our nutrition programs and our after school lacrosse programs, really telling them the story of our mission. And then during the week leading up to the game, they've got social media posts, email templates, and then they start spreading the words to their network, telling them, hey, my team's playing against WNL this year on February 17th. We've got a really big game against them, and we're also using the game to raise awareness and funds for Lacrosse Nations. And then the donations kind of start trickling in. We give each player, it depends, but on average, it's about $100 goal for each player. Some teams want to get really competitive, and they'll be like, our goal is $400 each, or $500 each.
Yeah.
And so the range of fundraising per team really varies. But usually I think $100 is super easy, right? If you break it down, it's like 4 people at $25, 100 people at $10, whatever it is. And that's it. You know, the leading up to the game, we have a lot of social media like hype around it. And at the end, we've got all this amazing awareness and funds generated. And honestly, for us, we always tell teams that it's really not about the money, because the awareness that they're building for us is marketing dollars that we're not spending, essentially. Which is like massive, right? When you have 30, 40 man rosters or 40 women rosters, that's 2 teams, that's 80 people, Instagram stories, posting, tagging, all throughout their network. And if we get like 15, 20 games a year, you multiply that by 20. I can't do the math right now, but
no, you're fine.
Whatever that is, extrapolated, right? And so the network grows really, really big, and then so many people find out about us, which is really, really cool. And obviously, then like asking each kid to raise $100 is not hard, and they will ultimately they reach their goal, which is what we want, because you don't want them to not feel like they contributed or raised or felt successful in their fundraising. But yeah, it's just a really cool way to do it, and so much easier than the pledge model. I think the pledge model. And from our perspective, because we're such a small organization, the time that we save not having to do the pledge model is really, really beneficial.
That's
and
awesome.
It lets teams, we can really let teams kind of do it whatever they want. Like we'll sometimes build out the pages for them. Other times we'll just create the team page, and then the players get to go in, create their own fundraising page for themselves, and really kind of create it the way they want to. That's one way. And then the other way is for our service trips. So we never want the cost of our service trips, like the fees that we charge for those trips, to be a barrier for teams or players that are going. Because it's not cheap to go on a service trip, cover all the expenses and stuff. But so what we do is we offer teams that like where they feel that player cost might be an issue for families, we let them create a team page, and let the team, the individuals on the team that want to fundraise to cover their cost, fundraise on the website and ask for donors to support their trip to Colombia or their trip to Nicaragua. And again, it's the same thing, right? They usually, for those, it's a much longer campaign because, you know, they're trying to raise $3,000 to cover their trip fees. But they reach out to family and friends and people that may be into the lacrosse world and maybe not, but they want to help their friend go on this amazing experience. And again, I don't like, there's very few people that like create a fundraising page to go on a trip that don't reach their fundraising goal. And so they only expense out of pocket that they have are their flights, which is amazing.
Wow.
So they get to go on these trips
That's great.
and have this amazing experience. And it's all thanks to the support of their network, which for us is awesome because a lot of times those are people that are donating just because their friend or their nephew or whatever is going on this trip and they want to help them. But then it lets us continue the conversations with them and be like, hey, this is what Billy did on his trip to Colombia, but this is where your impact was felt as well. Like not only are you helping him go on this trip, but then it's also supporting the work that we're doing on the ground, which just opens up a lot of opportunities for us to engage more people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so kind of, I have a follow-up question. You had mentioned when, you know, people commit to running a fundraising campaign for a game or like maybe like competitors against one another, and you have all the players on the team that are individually raising, right? And then they're sharing on social media. So can you give me, and you mentioned like this is a really great way, like free marketing for the organization and the mission. So can maybe you talk a little bit more about that and maybe what impacts you see over time, kind of like the multiplication, like spread of like the brand in the lacrosse community or amongst like lacrosse families. And then what do you look for over time? I'm throwing a lot of different questions asking you at once, sorry.
Yeah.
But like, what do you
No.
look for over time as far as like an increase in like marketing engagement, like through the P2P campaigns? Like how do you benchmark that?
That is great. And I don't think we do a good enough job of tracking that, to be very honest. It's pretty anecdotal. Right now, it's the influx and like the increase that we see in social media followers, because usually at the end of the spring, we have way more followers than we did at the beginning. Or even there's at least a percentage increase every spring, at the end of every spring, just because of the teams that are doing that. I think just in general, hearing the inbound stuff that we're getting, it's like, hey, I found out about this because so-and-so on this team was doing a fundraiser for you guys. I'd love to get involved. Again, it's very anecdotal, but definitely something we need to track more of because it's definitely happening. I wish I had hard stats to give you, but it's definitely those two things, right? The increase in people either signing up for our newsletter or going on to our social media channels and following us there, or the inbound traffic that we're getting, whether it's emails or like DMs through social media of people wanting to get involved because they heard about it through a friend.
Yeah, I love that. I love how that kind of solves a problem for a lot of smaller teams and organizations that have like a smaller support staff. Just kind of like two things at once. You're doing all your fundraising throughout the year, like all of your campaigns, but all the marketing is happening within that community as well. I think that's really cool. So how do you keep returning fundraisers, returning teams, participants, coaches engaged year after year? What does that look like to keep them, you know, maybe like running the challenges or the peer-to-peer fundraising?
That is a huge challenge, honestly. I think the biggest thing we've seen is just the relationship building before, during, and after the campaign, right? So the teams that repeat fundraisers are the teams that we have done a really good job of building that relationship with them and continually throughout the year sharing the impact that they're having with us. And just letting them know, hey, like you guys did this fundraiser, you raised $2,000, just to say. Right at the end of the campaign, we'll let them know, hey, this is the impact that you're gonna have. And then maybe a few months later, hey, this is an update on how we use that fund. those funds. And just having those continual touch points are really, really important. And just those personal relationships that we have with them and letting them know how grateful we are and how impactful their campaign has been is what keeps teams coming back. A lot of times what we do is we pitch teams on two things, either a service trip to Colombia or Nicaragua, or dedicating one of their games throughout the season. For a lot of people, doing an international trip is very intimidating. And so they'll defer to doing a fundraiser the first year. And during that first year where we're doing these fundraising, they start to learn a lot more about our mission, and they see other teams that end up going on trips, and they'll see videos and posts and emails that we send out about these trips. And they're like, that doesn't look so scary. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could do one. And then the next year will be like, well, you did a fundraiser last year. How about you guys go on a trip this year? And then when you come back, you'll do another fundraiser. And then that cycle kind of repeats itself. And so getting them to engage on different fronts is one of the ways that we do that. So it's not just, hey, dedicate this game, see you later.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, bye. But it's that ongoing communication, which is very, very challenging.
Yeah. Is it very personalized to each?
We try to make it very personalized. Yeah. Which is what makes it really difficult.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think last year we had maybe 20 teams do fundraisers. And so that's at least 20 contacts that you're trying to keep in touch with. We had 10 teams do trips, so it kind of starts to add up. But it's in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next question. How do you introduce or encourage monthly giving, if at all, during P2P campaigns?
Our monthly giving really has not come from the peer-to-peer campaigns. I think our ability to build, when you get a recurring donor, it's someone that has really either bought into the mission, has seen it firsthand. I think seeing it firsthand is massively important to the work that we do.
And sorry to interrupt really quick. Seeing it firsthand, does that mean go on a trip?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone that's gone on to unless they're really committed or brought in by somebody who's been on the ground, it's really challenging for us to turn peer-to-peer donors into recurring donors. But that goes back to us tapping into those donations from peer-to-peer campaigns and talking about our trips and getting people excited. So a lot of our recurring donors are people who have connected with us on the ground on a trip of some kind, or someone who knew someone that went on a trip who came back and was like, oh my God, this organization is absolutely amazing. I've seen firsthand what they're doing. I'm going to start giving monthly. You need to do that as well. Mm-hmm. And that's really where we're getting the majority of our recurring donors.
Interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool. What were some early challenges in scaling or managing this kind of fundraising strategy across different teams and different games? I mean, you're communicating with different teams in different states. I'm assuming high schools, colleges, all of that.
Yeah, I think the trickiest part is, it's managing all of the different games that you have going on in the season, right? So in a week, we could have a team in Ohio, and then the next week it's a team in Colorado, and just making sure that we are being good about communicating with those teams as we lead up to the event, and dependent on the scale that they want to bring it to. Some teams, like I said, they have a trophy, they have a trophy presentation, they want a tent set up. Other teams are just doing that. Some teams will make Lacrosse the Nation shirts with their logo on it that they wear before the game. So getting those logistics done. It's just, a matter of a lot of logistical details leading up to their game, ensuring that they are getting the story about our mission and how what they're doing on the field is going to, impact them or impact us, is really, that's probably the hardest part, is Just making sure that we have a timeline and are staying to that timeline of communicating with them as their event approaches or as their fundraiser approaches.
And here is another question kind of around the challenges, especially when working with so many different people and coordinating all that and like a one season, right? So how do you balance like team-based fundraising with maintaining like a consistent branding and messaging across events for your organization?
That's tough. It's really tough. So we actually have a little fundraising toolkit that we've put together that has sample social media posts with our logo. We actually do this little donation bingo card that folks can put on their story, and it's like, hey, if you donate, it's like different values, and as somebody donates that amount, they tag them on that amount and they want to fill their donation card. So we give them a lot of branded assets that they don't really have to do anything, just like download to your phone, put it up on your Instagram. We have email templates, like some like caption for Instagram and in Twitter posts, but we really let them kind of just take it as they want to, right? Because we want them to talk about it from a very personal perspective, based on what they know about the organization. So the template is one piece, and then the story we tell them leading up, in the weeks leading up to it, is the second piece. So we send about 4 or 5 emails to the team, kind of sharing our story, our mission, the impact, and being very clear about the wording the verbiage that we use, but like, this is how your donated funds are going to be used and how it's going to impact our kids in Colombia or our kids in Nicaragua. I think 2 years ago, or maybe last year, years are all melding, that season's campaign, it was focused specifically on our LTN scholars. So we were telling donors that all of the money that we raised during that season was going to go to benefit all the kids that are on scholarship with Lacrosse the Nations in Nicaragua. So it's going to go to school uniforms, gym uniforms, school supplies, backpacks, tuition support, study hall hours, like all of that. So everything that we sent them was about the kids that are on scholarship in our programs, and how every dollar we raised through that season was going to go to help that specific program. And that really helped a lot, because it made it a lot more tangible for the kids that were fundraising, right? It made it easy to really talk about, hey, I'm playing this game, and the money that we raise is going to give scholarships to kids in Nicaragua. Like, super, super easy to say that, as opposed to like, Lacrosse Nations has after school programs, and they do nutrition programs and do this and that. And like, if we focused it on one specific program, which is really a huge need for us, it made it really easy for the kids and the players and the coaches fundraising to talk about it, because it was very simple, very easy for them to understand, and very easy for their network to understand, right? Oh, I'm raising money for a scholarship that's going to help a kid go to school.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really good insight for other organizations that do this particular kind of fundraising, like just keeping things like very simple, where like somebody could say it in 1 to 2 sentences.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, it's clear. Yeah, I love that. That's really good advice. Okay, so you had also mentioned like you sometimes set up the pages for them, right? Like the fundraising pages, and then they make their own like individual donation pages. Is that right?
So we do it both ways, right? Some teams, they just want to have one team page, and everybody is driving traffic to that one link. Other teams will create the team page, and then the players will create their individual page underneath it. And then other times the teams want to do that, but the coach doesn't think the players will do it, or will do it in the timely fashion. So we create the team page, and then he'll send us like the roster, and we'll create the individual pages for each team.
Got it.
I don't think one is more successful than the other. One is definitely more time consuming for us than the other, for sure. It's just a matter of preference for the team that we're working with. And we like to make it as simple as possible for the coach, kind of this is not another thing that's being added to your list of responsibilities as a coach, but rather this is something that is adding value to your program because you're adding that service component for your student athletes, especially high school kids, because I think most high school kids now are required to do some kind of service hours. It's great resume building for college applications. I mean, like, and this counts, like raising money for our organization counts as your volunteer hours. And so for us, it's more important to like make sure that the coach isn't like, oh, I have to do this other thing now, even though they might be really, really into it. Adding another thing to their to-do list is not something that they want. And so trying to make it as easy as possible for the on the admin side for the staff, especially what we've seen work really well is having 2 or 3 kids on the team that are really leading the push. So we'll have the coach, like usually a lot of teams will have like service leaders on their team. And those service leaders will be the ones that we engage like, hey, this is what you got to send out to your teammates, get them to create the page, or we'll create the pages and be like, here you go. But making it easy for the coaching staff, for the teacher that's leading the group, is huge because they don't want more to-dos on their list, and nobody does.
Yeah, yes, yeah, it's true. Okay, so, and are you doing that through, are you building all the pages through For a Good Cause?
It's all done. It's all done through For a Good Cause.
So are you doing all the, like, the communications through For a Good Cause too, or do you link that to like MailChimp and send out?
We link everything through MailChimp. So everything gets integrated into the our MailChimp account, and then we send out emails through that.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've been a For a Good Cause client for about 10 years now, so thank you so much for that. Can you tell me what has been the best part of the experience with the platform for you and your organization?
Oh man, there's so many. It's like it really comes down to Ronald and his staff. The customer service is just unreal. Like, the platform is very easy to use, but if there are things I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or why is this like this and not like that? Yeah. I email Ronald. He gets back to me so fast. I've never had anyone get back to me that fast. It's kind of impressive. And then like if I say, oh, I would love it if For a Good Cause could do this, maybe not that update, but the next update, it's there. It's like, it's impressive how much they listen to what I have to say. Yeah. And I'm sure it's because I'm not the only one saying it. And so they're very, very good about listening to us as clients and adapting it. And I think that is probably the biggest value, because if you go to anyone else, that's not going to happen, right? Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I think that is really, really huge. One of the things that we ended up using For a Good Cause for that we didn't anticipate was for our team trips. We used it as a method. We create events essentially for the trip deposits and the trip fees to streamline the process, because before it would all have to be checks, right? Like you'd have to pay like everything in checks. So I'm waiting for checks to come in. I have to like be checking the mail at the office every day, making sure people are doing this and that. So what we've done is we created an event for team trips, and it's $300 deposit to lock in your spot. And then the balance based on the length of the trip. So there's a variety of different costs based on how long groups are going to be in country. And so we have those fees already built out as events on For a Good Cause. So we get people to register through For a Good Cause to kind of basically just make it a lot easier, A, for us to keep track, and then B, for the person going, or the family member that's sending their kid on a trip, to register, pay, and get it all done with, which is phenomenal.
That's awesome.
So easy for us.
Yeah.
And I never thought that wasn't the intent going into getting For a Good Cause. But it was a huge benefit that we get from it.
I love that. I know that we have a lot of clients that use it for event ticketing.
Mm-hmm. We do that too. I mean, we use you guys like For a Good Cause for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Here's an interesting question. Have you thought about switching? Why or why not?
I have thought about switching, mainly because we've been approached by other vendors. But when I when I look at what we get with For a Good Cause compared to what they're offering, it just doesn't. It does. I mean,
Yeah.
they might have maybe more stuff, maybe, but not at the value that we're getting. Like I think we have pretty much everything we need here, and it's such a great value, and the customer service is so incredible. And just knowing that if I email Ronald about a problem or something I wish was different, that I'm heard and that it might change like within the year. Like that's I'm not going to get that anywhere else. Actually, I was having a conversation last week. I was sitting down with a colleague of mine who runs an organization that's very similar to ours, and we were talking about like, oh, what do you use for fundraising and blah, blah, blah. And he showed me his, and he's like, I don't like it. It doesn't look like our website. It doesn't match our branding and blah. And I'm like, oh, well, look at ours. Like ours is pretty cool. Like it really functions well. It's super easy to use. And he's like, man, I wish I hadn't just renewed my contract. And I was like, I know, because For Good Cause is amazing. So I literally, whenever I talk to anyone in the nonprofit world, I'm like, oh, what do you use for fundraising? I'm like, you should use For a Good Cause.
Yeah. Well, we love to hear it. Looking back over the years, what do you think makes your fundraising approach so effective?
I think the ease of use, like how simple we've made it, is what makes it really, really successful. Again, not making it a huge lift for fundraisers, massive. Making it easy for us to build out and create campaigns and to customize them to what we want. Huge, like the fact that everything is easy, both from our end and for the fundraisers perspective, is probably what is the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then let's see, what would you tell other nonprofits who are considering like sports-based team-based P2P fundraising? Like if there's anything that you've learned over the years, like what wisdom would you want to pass on, you know?
Oh, man. It's all about communication. Like the more you communicate with potential fundraisers, the more you tell them how what they do is impacting the mission, and not just before whatever fundraiser they do, but after and in the future. It's not just, hey, build this fundraiser, thank you for all the money you raised, and that's it, 2 points of contact. It's the communication leading up to the event, it's the fundraiser event itself, and then the post event communication. Like the more you talk to them, the more you build out that relationship and really A, express gratitude, and B, express the impact that they're making for your organization, the better off you'll be. And then obviously getting people to do it is just an outreach thing. And so the more people you reach out to, the more success you're going to have, because not everyone's going to want to do this, right? So, and you have to be okay with that. So if we talk to 300 teams and we get 15 teams or 30 teams to do it, it's not like that's a success in our book, right? It's not about getting all 300, everybody that we talk to do it, just because people have other nonprofits that they support. They have a lot on their plate. They might be a new head coach for the season, and they are trying to get their bearings on what's happening in their program. Or they might be a 15-year head coach and they're just exhausted and they can't add that to their plate, and it's not a reflection of your organization. It's just a matter of just not being the right time. And so the more teams that you talk to, the better off you're going to be. And knowing that, I guess the last piece is knowing that it's a slow build. Like year one, maybe you get 5 teams. but year 2 you might get 6, and then slowly it'll build on itself. And if you can get teams to come back and do it over and over again, that kind of just it'll snowball. So it's not like year 1 you make this peer-to-peer campaign and you raised $1 billion. That's not going to happen. It just takes some time.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great answer. Okay, one last question. I know we have like 60 seconds, and then I will send all of this your way for like approvals once we've got the draft ready and all of that. But so final question, is there anything over the last couple of years in fundraising and like nonprofit leadership development that you've learned while working in your org that you would also just love to share with others, something that stuck out to you the last couple of years?
Well, I will say that, and this is a lot thanks to Ronald, the importance of recurring donors. Like it is something that's super, super important. And it's a great way to raise money for your organization and to build relationships with donors. We launched our recurring donor program probably at the worst time. I think it was like end of 2019, which is not the best time to start a recurring giving program. But I think it could be better. It's been successful. I think it could be better. And I think there's a lot of work that we have to do to make it stronger. But even with like, I think we have like 30 recurring donors right now, like knowing that money is coming in every month without us having to be like, give us money kind of thing is massive. And the importance of monthly giving is only getting bigger, and the impact that it can have on an organization is huge. If you can really grow out a strong monthly giving program, or recurring giving programs, it doesn't have to be monthly, is I think huge. And it's one of the priorities that we have for 2026. And I've actually been talking to Ronald a lot about it. And how we can, I think like maybe a few, like right before he connected us, that was what our call was about, was like how we can grow our monthly giving. And he sat down with me for like an hour and showed me all the new things that For a Good Cause has, specifically to convert what we talked about earlier that we're not doing a good job of the peer-to-peer donors into monthly donors. Mm-hmm. So monthly giving it's low-hanging fruit really, because it's not really like hard, but it's just work that you have to actually put into it. And it's something we are prioritizing in 2026.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Javier, thank you so much for your time. It was such a delightful conversation. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.